Good evening, everyone. This is the February 16 regular meeting of the Harbor Management Commission. We continue to follow the governor's order because of the COVID, and as such, the public will not be able to be heard. Public is encouraged to send their comments after the meeting or during the meeting to hmc@fairfieldct.org with HMC 216 meeting in the subject line. Let me just take the roll here so we know officially who's present. Ted is here.
I'm here.
Ted, Harry.
Harry French.
Sam Cargill. Sam was here. Jack?
Yes, I'm here. Sam Cargill here.
Okay. Jack?
I'm here.
Eric?
Here.
Libby? Libby was here. Doug Metchick?
I'm here, Kim. I'm here.
Okay, thanks, Libby. Doug Metchick? Ed Billings?
Here.
Jeff Stedman? I know Jeff is here. Betty?
I'm here.
Oh,
Great.
I was muted, Kim. Here. I'm here.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Mark Foster?
Here.
Great. Super. Looking at the agenda this evening, I hope everybody came to approve minutes, prepared to do that. I apologize. Some of the minutes are not finalized. The corrections that were to have been made are noted on. You can see them on the minutes. I'd like to. It's entirely my fault, and I'd like to approve them with the corrections as noted on the copies that you received, and then they will be.
I'm so sorry. When you sent them to me, I didn't open them. I just attached them without realizing that I had further modifications. So I think 2 are good. One of them has those corrections noted. So what I'm going to do is go back and make those corrections. But 2 of them I think are fine. I think it's only one that doesn't have the corrections made. They're just noted.
Right. The December 1st minutes have changes that have not been made. And Betty, I will not let you take the fall for that. That was I should have gotten them back to you sooner. So we can argue about who's at fault.
We're going to get it done.
We're going to get it done. Okay. So with looking now at the December 1st special meeting minutes, with the changes as noted on the copy that you all received. Can I have a motion to accept them as presented to you?
So moved, Sam Cargill.
Okay, Sam, thank you. Sam moved. Can we have a second?
Kim, this is Ted. I'll second that.
Thank you, Ted.
You're welcome.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks very much, everybody. On the minutes for the public
Kim,
hearing.
this is Doug Metchick. I'm sorry, I missed my spot in roll. I was muting and unmuting. I just want to let you know I'm on the line.
Well, I'm glad you're here, Doug. Thank you. For December 8 minutes, I would just like to note that Doug was present at our December 8 meeting, and I believe that it's noted in the commissioners who were present that Doug was absent. So that we need to change. And I think other than that, those minutes absolutely reflect what happened during that special meeting on December 8. Unless there are any questions or concerns about those minutes, can I have a motion to accept them with the change that Doug Metchik was present. Motion to accept the December 8th special meeting public
Kim,
hearing minutes.
This is Doug. I actually have a process question that I'm unsure of.
Okay.
As an alternate on the committee, is it acceptable for me to make a motion?
Yes.
No.
Then
Not
I'll
unless
make a motion.
No, it's not. I thought it was just that he could not vote unless we had a quorum. Didn't have a quorum.
You have to appoint him as a full member if you do not have a quorum.
Right, but as
full members.
Okay, Doug. I guess that's the answer then. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Kim, that being the case, this is Ted. I will make a motion to approve the minutes with that change noted.
Thank you, Ted.
Jack, I'll second.
Could I have a
You're
second?
welcome. Jack. Yes.
Thank you, Jack. Jack seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. And finally, the regular meeting on December 15th, the only change that I see that we need to make is that at the top it says, the title of the document, it says a special meeting, and then the first line says a special meeting, and special should be stricken because it was our regular monthly meeting. So aside from that, unless there are no changes, others see, could I have a motion to accept as with those two changes?
Yes, I propose to accept the minutes as noted.
Yes, please. Thank you, Mark. Could I have a second?
Kim, it's Ted again. I will second since no one else is stepping up.
Thank you, Ted. Ted seconds that. All in favor of approving the December 15 minutes with the two exceptions noted, please say aye.
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 Great, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. I hope to get you this set of minutes and January 19th by the end of the week. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thanks, Betty. Okay, so my report this evening. Right after our last meeting, I sent an email to Jeff Engborg at Pequot Yacht Club and Christopher Smith, the Commodore, just thanking Jeff for an excellent presentation and inviting him to come back and present again. Because it was I thought a terrific presentation, and it was an extra effort, and we certainly appreciate that. On the 22nd of January, sent a letter to DEEP about DEEP's notice of tentative approval of the Aquarian Water Company's application to divert another 7 million gallons from the reservoir and Mill River. We'll have more about that under new business. There was a decision by the Connecticut Superior Court, which Betty was able to attach to item number 2 under new business. But the result of the decision could have an impact on how harbor commissions all over the state do business, and as a result, we sent a letter to Kristen McCarthy-Vahey, who is, I believe, the chair of the Transportation Committee in Hartford, and has would have the opportunity to perhaps help us with some legislation if we wish to counter the decision by the Connecticut Superior Court. And finally, we received an email earlier in February, last week actually, from David Palmer, who has the opportunity to perhaps have a mooring in the harbor, but is leaving the area and would like his $50 waitlist fee refunded. And I believe that Betty has attached that a picture of his a partial picture of his original application to the agenda. And I believe that Ed will give us an update on that in part of his report. Before I turn to Ed for the Harbor Master report, I'd just like to point out that last year at this time was when we first all convened. It was our first and only meeting together. And certainly none of us knew at that time that we would not see each other in our meeting room for what has become a year and probably will go on a fair amount of time longer. COVID has certainly made the work of the Commission more complicated, and it's definitely made the work of getting to know each other and working together far more complex and complicated than any of us could have imagined. Nonetheless, I'm pretty proud of all that we've accomplished. We have some major and set of proposed rules that we're waiting to vote on that took yeoman's work, a huge amount of effort. If nothing else, in all the meetings that were required to bring the rules this far along in the process, to say nothing of the time and the effort that was put in by Jack and the Harbor Master and Pat Carroll and Jeff Stedman. So I think we should all be proud of that effort. We have plan update work underway. We've had a survey that went out to members of the public last month. We had received just over 370 responses, and we're moving ahead with our effort to get the harbor management plan updated. We also have, obviously, 2 dredging projects that we would like to be able to move forward on, and Mark and Jeff are certainly continuing the conversation that we have with the Army Corps of Engineers in DEEP in order to make that happen. So I think that we have a lot to be proud of, despite the fact that it's been so difficult to get anything done and near impossible to get to know each other as kind of as teammates in anything other than the most superficial way. I'd like to point out that we're not done. We've got a couple of new agenda items, new business items this evening that may actually result in additional projects for the Commission to undertake. Both of them could be extraordinarily important in terms of influencing not only the work of how the Commission's work going forward, but also, in fact, how the harbor, whether there's enough water in the harbor for it to continue to be the harbor. So we have some interesting projects ahead of us, and I'm very hopeful that more commissioners will get involved in the committee work that goes on in between our monthly meetings. It's a great opportunity to learn. I know from personal experience that it's easy to say, well, I don't know anything about the intricacies and the details of some of these projects, and Jeff Stedman knows so much. What can I possibly contribute to those efforts to get things done when he is going to be involved? And I think that it's important to know that Jeff's an excellent teacher. There's a lot of interesting things to be learned from him and from the committee work that's going on at the time, and that we hope the new work that we hope will continue to go on. And it's to have a strong and effective commission, we need to have everybody participate. Everybody here has talents and ideas and is able to ask good questions, and that's really what we need going forward. So I hope that year 2 of the COVID world will not be so challenging and uncomfortable and weird for us, and that we're able to continue to produce quality work. And I hope that more of you will feel comfortable volunteering to get involved, to get on some of these committees and do a little extra work in between meetings. If it's not something that you're interested in doing and this is not your cup of tea, I'd be very happy to chat with you about it. So that's my spiel. And having said that, Ed, you've got a lot to bring us up to date on tonight. Why don't you go ahead?
Well, good evening, everyone, and very well said, Kim. I appreciate what you noticed, what you noted about being a team, and we certainly are.
Thank you.
I guess I usually start off with the online mooring, which it's going quite well, better than last year. I was at Town Hall today to drop off some checks that I had received, and I'm happy to report that there's a lot less snail mail going on versus last year. So that's good. Doesn't eliminate the numerous emails that I have to do, but in any event, it's going quite well. I would say, without getting into the specific numbers, we're about, I would say, close to 2/3 being done. There's a number of applications that are still obviously not in. Some are under review, both on mooring applications and waitlist applications. We're reviewing various paperwork, and as I noted in past discussions, the mooring holders, some of which are board members, are notorious for not including the proper Okay, it took you a while. Come on, people, let's go. But as I have said before, I do need to review the messages going out, which I did, and they do say quite specifically that please, before you remit payment, upload your current information, insurance and vessel information. So that's an ongoing issue, but again, less than last year. So this is year 2 of the program, and I think it's going pretty well. There's a learning curve for everyone, including myself, obviously. I picked up the harbor permits, the mooring permits today. And due to a couple of connections that I have, I was able to match the mooring permit to the new vessel permit. So we're going to be color coordinated. So you won't have you'll both have orange stickers, bow and stern, this year. Regarding Kim mentioned David Palmer. I have requested, due to the fact that it was very difficult to see his attachment, I have asked for a clearer scan or photo of the entire document so that I can really take a look at it and, review it properly. And then, we'll either issue the refund to him and go forward from there. And lastly, I'd like to, thank everyone. I mean, especially those at the Pequot Club who've donated the whaler. There is a number of things that will need to be done to the boat, and Pequot has graciously agreed to haul it and clean it off, do a new bottom job. And by cleaning it off, I mean take off any decals or identifying material. What I'd like to propose tonight is to set a not-to-exceed figure for monies to be expended on the repairs and new equipment that will be needed to make this boat a proper boat representative of the town of Fairfield and the harbor of Southport. And that figure, I have calculated it to not to exceed $7,500, which I think is a fair amount. I'm hoping that it will be under that, and if it is, any of that excess would be applied to annual maintenance fees, which I estimate from two vendors to be less than $2,000 per year. There's a number of items in there which include paint inside and outside, a heavy-duty non-skid paint to be applied inside, VHF unit, a small chart plotter, VHF, repairs to the inside of the hull. Repairs to the inside of the hull prior to painting, and past harbor master Pat Carroll. I've talked with him, and he's very excited about this vessel as well. And I look forward to taking him for a ride in it, hopefully. But he has raised an interesting point, and he thought that we should paint it with some type of a distinctive color, or perhaps a swath of brightly colored paint on both sides. We haven't gotten into the details, but I can throw that out there to any of you who want to have input on the color. I was thinking just a wide slash of maybe 3 feet red paint on both sides. In a kind of like to emulate the Coast Guard. I think it's kind of on a diagonal direction. And other than that, to
make it more noticeable.
I'm sorry?
To make it more noticeable.
Yes, exactly. And there's been other suggestions of equipment to put on there, which I'm hoping to do. I was hoping to be able to price a T-top in there, because there was a mention of we should have some type of identifying lights. You cannot, as a harbor master, I cannot use blue lights, but alternating red and amber are permitted. However, with that in mind, you would need to mount them on something, which would be a T-top. Mounting a T-top would probably be in the I'm hoping it would be a $1,000 item. I'm not sure if I can get that in there for the $7,500, including the lights as well. However, we might want to just, use the boat for a year or so, see how it goes, and then, we can add some additional equipment. But, the other thing was I'll have to do some more research. I did a little bit of research on the addition of a T-top on a whaler, and in certain weather conditions, it can lend to instability. So, I just want to make sure that, the boat is safe for, whether I'm operating it or someone else in the future. So, with that, I'll turn it back to you, Kim.
So, Ed, what is
any questions?
So the $7,500, that would go for VHF, repairs to the hull, painting the inside.
Decals, which decals I'll need more information on as well, exactly how we want it to be worded, whether it's just Harbor Master, as my current signs are, or I'm thinking somewhere in there. We'll have to discuss the font size. Town of Fairfield or Southport Harbor. Maybe have a Fairfield seal on the transom or something. I don't know.
Okay.
But there's like I said, I mean, without getting into, I mean, I can list a number of things. I mean, the boat needs I believe it needs a new bilge pump. I mean, that figure would include horns, new flare kit, throwable device, first aid kit, a plexiglass windshield to replace one that's missing, a few extra lines, forward hatch repair, repairing the bow cleat, and repairing lights, among other things.
Okay. Does this include a trailer too, or is that a separate?
That doesn't. Oh yes, I'm sorry. That does include a trailer as well, which I've
okay.
I have actually the same two vendors do have used trailers. I did make the specification that these need to be registerable and certifiable to go over the road. So that's approximately a $1,200 expense for those.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully less. One guy says much less, but I have to see it first. So.
Okay. So, commissioners, Ed is asking us to approve the sum up to $7,500 that would to outfit safely, upgrade, outfit, make safe the whaler that Pequot Yacht Club has indicated they are donating to us. Any thoughts, questions?
This is Harry.
Yep.
I think it would be important to do all of this work. I would also say that it should have the T-top to protect the harbor master from the sun. So that I would consider that somewhat of a necessary expense.
Kim, this is Ted.
Yes, Ted.
I would like to suggest that we consider authorizing that $7,500 budget for the harbor master, and also providing him with an additional $2,500. You might think of it as a contingency fund. That if things end up being a little more expensive than he foresees, or he needs a few more items, he could go to you for approval on those up to the $2,500 without having to come back to the full committee.
Okay.
Because the warm weather is going to be here before we know it, and it doesn't really make sense to have to wait another month to get the full committee's approval if there's a couple of $100 item that would complete the boat and get him on his way.
Right. I mean, the next commission meeting is the middle of March. So if we wait until then, conceivably about the same time that folks are putting their boats in the water, we would barely be able to get Ed launched. So
right.
I think that's critical. That this is Sam, that he gets launched, and I think that the term that should be in the minutes should be repurposing the boat to be the effective vessel for the harbor master.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
I would say repurpose. The vessel.
Repurpose, thank you.
And I think it needs all of that. It's going to be pretty intimidating, I'll tell you, though. I'll be watching out for you, Ed. Don't come up behind me with those flashing lights.
No.
This is Jack.
I'm in favor of if there's not a there's not a motion, but I'm in favor of the proposed motion. If you want to present it again.
Okay, I think Jack had something to say, and then let's put together. Let's propose something, Jack.
I was just agreeing with what Sam just said. So yeah, let's go ahead and go forward with Ted's suggestion.
Okay, so Ted, you want to repeat that?
Yeah, I don't know if my words will be quite right or not, but The motion that I was thinking of was basically to approve a budget of $7,500 for the harbor master to equip the donated boat from Pequot or the repurposed boat from Pequot, and to provide him with a contingency fund of $2,500 as well that he could spend upon approval of the chairperson of the Harbor Management Commission.
Okay. Do I have a second for Ted's motion?
I would accept it, Terry.
Uh-huh. So Harry seconds it. Any discussion?
Are those funds to be from the mooring account, the 102?
The 102 account. Is that right, Ted? That's what I would have in mind.
Yes, that's where I think the appropriate source of the funds is.
Okay.
Yes, from the 102 account. So we have a motion to approve up to $7,500 to repurpose the boat donated by Pequot Yacht Club to the Harbor Management Commission, with a $2,500 contingency fund that the harbor master can reach into upon approval of the commission chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. Aye. Excellent. Anyone opposed? Excellent. No one opposed. Terrific.
This is Doug. I just have something to add to the discussion. I think this is terrific. Just two additional comments. One on smaller Boston whalers that I've seen up on lakes in New Hampshire and Maine, and also in ports of Maine. Sometimes I've seen them use biminis as opposed to T-tops. I think a T-top's a great idea. I would go for it if cost became an issue, or if there was, other issues. That's a consideration, Ed. And then also, I don't think I heard it come up, but just to make sure if the boat has some kind of adequate tow capability, whether it's a tow bar or pylon. If it is a pylon, you might be able to mount a strobe on that. In the event you went with a bimini or something.
Yeah.
Those two suggestions.
If I know that's in my list of responsibilities. With a 50-horse motor, towing may be an issue with this boat. But then again, I've pushed 45 and 50 footers around with the old Admiral years ago. But my main point is towing may alter the risk management. Because you're basically taking care, custody, and control of someone else's property. If it's in a situation of distress or imminent danger, then okay, the Good Samaritan rule would come into effect. I believe, but the reason basically for the T-top is it's more secure. I did consider bimini top. That's what I have on my boat. In Maine, but the T-top, you would be able to mount VHF antenna. You could hardwire the antenna to that, in addition to strobe lights. So we'll see where the cost comes in. Ideally, I'd like to get something used but in very good shape. Sometimes people just want to do something like that. So hopefully those will come our way.
We'll look forward to hearing at our next meeting how you're coming along with the repurposing.
Yeah, so it'll be exciting, and I appreciate everyone's vote of confidence. I'm really thrilled that Pequot donated the boat, and to have the funding from the Harbor Commission to refurbish it. Will be great. I think it's going to be a great addition, and I didn't get into the specifics of where it's. At least I don't think we did in the morning committee meeting, but it's going to be over on Perry Green during the season, and at South Benson during the winter. Those arrangements have been made. So prior to your approval, of course.
Right.
So
excellent.
So once again, thank you. That's great news. I'm excited as well.
Great. Great.
And Kim?
Yes, Ted?
Ed mentioned risk management when he was talking. Have we heard back from the town of Fairfield on how to go about ensuring this?
We haven't. I have inquired of the risk manager. I want to say it's been about a week and a half ago now, and I really hated to bug anybody at the town today because, there was a 3-day weekend and just getting back to work. But I'm going to shoot him another email tomorrow and just find out. He said he would check into it for me. So
okay.
I assume we're assuming that we're going to be covered under the town's insurance policy and that we will have to contribute something to that. But even that is yet to be determined. So he's assured me he was working on it. So, but
okay.
I will report back on that.
Thank you.
Yes, no, you're welcome. Any other questions, suggestions? Okay, moving right along then. Lower Wharf project. Jeff, anything to report?
Kim, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. And thank you for the kind words about attributing knowledge to me. I don't know that that's my fault, other than just being so interested in this and grateful for the opportunity to work with the commission for so many years. The Lower Wharf report, I've been talking with Mr. Sternberg from RACE,
mm-hmm.
and there are several issues, I guess. As you know, the permit expired. The letter from DEEP I guess it was probably addressed to Mr. Sternberg, since he submitted the application on the commission's behalf. But it said that it would not be renewed again, and we would have to apply for a new authorization. Right. But it's not quite clear what sort of authorization we need to apply for, whether it's a completely new permit or there's some other authorization that's not as time-consuming. So Mr. Sternberg asked if the commission, if it's okay with you, I could do this. The commission contacts DEEP rather than the commission's engineer, and inquire about what sort of authorization is needed. Because if it is a full permit again, which is I think what we had assumed, the permit fee is substantial. It's in like $2,400. But if it can be renewed through a certificate of permission, then the fee is much less. But there's also another issue, as of course there always is, and that's the previous sediment tests that RACE took for us or did for us recently. Mm-hmm. Now the Corps has some concerns about that, even though that they were taken according to the normal procedures for doing this. Apparently there are some new guidelines that the Corps has. So we've got to resolve that, the validity of the most recent sediment tests. And so Mr. Sternberg is working on that. But and so we had asked if they could put together, they being RACE, a cost proposal for updating the getting a new permit, we assumed. But so he's not done that. He was working on, but it depends on two things: on the authorization that's required by DEEP, and also the resolution of these issues with the sediment samples. Because if we have to do some of those again, there's a substantial cost. So that's not real good news about this. But I don't know that there's any other way than just to keep trying to resolve these matters. And then again, we don't have assurances that there'll be cap material in the fall again. So we're spending money on this project, and the town, through the grant and through I don't know if we've used any of the commission's funds yet. I believe we have, because there was a capital outlay some time ago. So I guess there may need to be a decision made about once we get resolve this reapplication issue and how much that's going to cost. I think next month we'll have to make a decision about the amount of money that's being spent, and if we if we're going to be over the budget and over the amount of the grant that was provided.
Wow. So on the first point, it's Mr. Sternberg's advice that we contact DEEP to find out whether or not we need a whole new permit or whether there's some alternate process that would give us the permission that we need, give us the equivalent of, give us the permit again.
Right. Some alternate authorization rather than a full permit.
Okay. Well, I think since we've gotten this far, Jeff, I think it would be appropriate for you to go ahead and contact them and see what the process would be, even though they told us in no uncertain terms in that letter last spring that the permit has expired and we're going to have to get a new one.
They said the permit has expired, it won't be renewed, and we have to seek a new authorization. They didn't use permit, and there are other authorizations one other that is possible, maybe.
So I think it makes sense for you to contact and see what they mean by new authorization.
Yes, that's what I tried to say in a whole bunch of words, and you said quickly, right?
And then I guess the other about the sediment test, is Mr. Sternberg suggesting that that we would have to do the test all over again, or is there simply a way of new guidelines to analyze the results that we provided?
Well, we're hoping it's the latter rather than the former, but he didn't eliminate the former from a possibility.
Okay. Commissioners, any thoughts? It sounds like we really don't have any choice having gotten this far, but certainly if anybody has any ideas. Harry, we really don't, yes.
No. I mean, it's got to get, first of all, it's got to get done, but we have to expend the funds to do whatever we have to do to get to the point where if the cap material is available, we can go ahead.
Right. I agree. How awful if we don't and there turns out that there's cap material.
Right. That's worse.
Oh, yeah. Commissioners, any other thoughts?
And then in the interim, if I'll find out from DEEP more about the authorizations that's required, and then continue to talk with Race and both Steve and Mr. Santa. Okay.
Well, that's great, Jeff. Thank you. Hopefully there's better news on the horizon. Unless there are any other questions about the Lower Wharf, how about sand management, Mark and Jeff?
Jeff, I have nothing. I turn it to you.
Oh, well, Mark and I have been communicating with the Corps of Engineers, and we're still optimistic of an on-site meeting in March, which is only a couple of weeks away. And when I talked with the Corps' project manager, there was a discussion about whether DEEP would want to meet us on the site if the vegetation isn't in, full bloom, I guess. But that's not until this, months from now. However, the vegetation is covered with snow now, or at least it was a few days ago. I did check with the golf course superintendent. So the purpose of the meeting would be to meet with DEEP on site for the Corps to present their plan for dredging the 100-foot wide width of the channel, and where that side slope then would go on the sandbar relative to the plants. And we can see the plants, they're obviously not green, but if the snow is off, we can see where the plants are, and we have the survey for the plants. So that's in the works. Trying to arrange a time when DEEP would be willing to meet with us. The other interesting thing, and forgive me for going on again, but the Corps asked us to provide information concerning our knowledge of the navigation project. And of course, it's their project, but the project manager is new. So talking about the history of this navigation project in Southport, and I think we mentioned it in our online presentation, it's really talking about the history of navigation projects in the United States in a large way, because the project goes back to 1829. And actually, the navigation improvements go back to 1825. So in 1825, the Congress, and we were able to assemble, very interesting, from the National Archives and from the State Library, these old documents that were necessary to build these works. So the first improvements in 1825 was to authorize 3 beacons. Now, those are not considered part of a federal navigation project because they're not maintained by the Army. They're like lighthouses and maintained by a different entity. So 1825 were 3 beacons, and they were built. And then in 1829, the jetty and the wall were authorized. And those were built and completed by 1837. And you know that the purpose of those was to try to stop sand from accumulating into the channel, and also to what they call train the river so it flowed south rather than out over the marshes to the east. But it's very interesting, and it can be done. I didn't do it all myself, but you can overlay the old Corps surveys from 1827, and then there was one in 1896, and the fixed points from back then and to the present day are the beacons. The outer beacon is where it was. The middle beacon is the end of the jetty. And the beacon close to shore was where the bend in the jetty is now. So you can overlay those old Corps surveys and match and see how the shoreline has changed over time. From 1827, I think, is the oldest Corps survey that we have, and up to the present time. And of course, the shoreline changed dramatically once the wall and the jetty were built. And I bring this up, and we'll continue to discuss it, because one of the issues, and we've talked about this, and Mark has, and one of the issues that has to be addressed, or one of the bits of information that has to be addressed, is the ownership of the sandbar. Because now we're proposing, we would hopefully proposing, to remove a substantial portion of it. And so the Corps of Engineers, in effect, will be applying for a DEEP permit to do that. And when you apply for a permit, you have to indicate the ownership of the property that you're affecting. So that's the sandbar on the west side of the jetty, on the other side of the jetty from the country club, will have to make a statement. The Corps will of the ownership of that sandbar, and we're working toward these old maps and the old documents. Help to understand all that went on, and the Corps' real estate section is looking at it as well. So anyway, I'm sorry to go on so much, but it's really fascinating to think about how the harbor evolved over time with these navigation improvements. And I think you saw the drawing or the artist rendition of the first jetty, which is in that 1836 book, which shows that the townspeople had put posts into that sandbar, put them, dug them into the sand, which was in effect the first jetty, in an effort to keep the sand from, as it's still doing now, from drifting into the harbor. So pardon me, but that's we're working on that, and hopefully in March we'll have a meeting with the Corps of Engineers and DEEP on the site.
Interesting, very interesting. Commissioners, questions?
I hadn't realized that there were like beacons out there, other than obviously what's there now.
Well, they call those the beacons, Harry, when they were first authorized. The light, the three lights.
Yeah.
And now there's two.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. Anybody else? Question for Jeff? Thoughts? Wow, Jeff, look forward to hearing it. So conceivably, the Corps could be down before our next meeting.
Well, conceivably, but that's our goal.
Okay.
And part of that depends on DEEP being willing to meet with us too.
Okay. Okay. Well, very interesting. Very interesting. Moving right along. Somebody have a question? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I have to punch out the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Jeff, thanks for your letter.
Okay, Mark.
Letter.
Mooring Committee. Jack?
I don't have much to report from last Thursday's Mooring Committee meeting that Ed did not cover in his very thorough Harbor Masters report. The one item that we did talk about was the number of people that have grown to be on our waiting list, and I just took a look at online mooring, and what were 70-some people last week has grown to 77 people as of right now. So we had worked the waiting list down quite a bit, and now it's creeping up with a lot of interest of people who would like to get a mooring in the harbor. So that's just something for commissioners to be aware of. Betty did distribute the minutes from last week's Mooring Committee meeting with today's meeting minutes, our meeting agenda, and I would welcome any comments or questions people have from those notes.
Commissioners, questions for Mooring Committee?
I did not seem to get them. This is Harry.
They went out before, I think. Harry, we'll make sure that you get them.
Not a problem.
Okay. Harbor Management Plan update. As I said earlier, the survey was very well received. It has just been closed this last weekend. We had 371, I think was the final number, Jeff, responses. Unfortunately, we only had one person under the age of 20 respond. Otherwise, pretty much all age groups, all demographics, all areas of use of the harbor responded, and a lot of people provided some very thoughtful and positive comments. The plan going forward is to put together an executive summary as well as make the whole survey, all the survey responses available. Obviously, the commissioners will all get that. We'll post both the complete survey and the executive summary on our website. We'll get back to the folks who so generously notified their members that the survey was out there, and let them know that the results are available, and then we'll take it from there. I hope everybody had a chance to, all the commissioners had a chance to take the survey, and I was very impressed with the job that Jeff did. So thanks, Jeff. Any questions, comments?
This is Doug.
I haven't done one of these with the town before, but I think the quantity of responses is great. Not only is it more than I expected, but I think it's enough that we can use it as a statistical sample. That's good. I also want to commend Jeff for the work he put into it. I think it's great. I can't even believe we got one person under the age of 20, frankly. But the performance so far is good. It would suggest to me, I don't feel the need to say there's not enough here for us to work with, or we have to go back or find alternative measures.
No.
Right, and what was interesting was, I mean, we had a lot of people who, it wasn't just boaters who responded, it was a lot of walkers. We even had a few visiting yachts people respond. People who or paddlers responded. People who just go down and sit at the lower wharf and enjoy the views responded. I mean, it was a great cross-section of, or seemed to be a great cross-section of people, and a great number of those folks. I mean, I think at least close to a third of those people in total took the time to write some pretty interesting and comments, and generally those were very supportive of the work that the Commission has done and our efforts going forward. So I think it was a huge success.
And nobody used bad language in referring to anybody. That was good too. As a joke, because in other surveys, there's sometimes that appeared.
Any other comments, thoughts about the survey? Okay, proposed changes to rules and procedures. Jack?
Kim, I can report that I have not received any comments or questions from commissioners regarding the rules and procedures update. We last reviewed and discussed the rules and procedures at the December 15th HMC monthly meeting, and at that time we decided to take no action, and we would allow more time for commissioners to be able to read and consider the proposed change. And the agenda in the January meeting was very full, and so we deferred consideration of the updated rules, allowing commissioners more time to consider them.
Okay. Do any of those commissioners who requested more time, or even those who didn't, have any questions or thoughts at this point? Okay. Hearing no questions or thoughts, I think it's important that if commissioners do have questions or thoughts, that they please raise them at the meeting. Get in touch with Jack. These are obviously rules that will not be in effect for the 2021 boating season, but given all that's on our plate going forward, I think it would be good to take a final action on them sometime, if not next month, certainly the month, certainly in April, so that we can take that energy and apply it to some of our other considerable and important projects. Ted, you want to fill us in on how your budget meeting went with the First Selectwoman and her staff?
Yes. Assuming you can hear me, Kim?
I can, Ted, yes.
Okay. Wasn't sure if getting off mute took or not. Yes. So I met via phone like we're doing now with Brenda Kupchik, Tom Bremer, who's the Chief Administrative Officer, Jackie Bertoloni, who's Chief of Staff, and I hope I pronounced her name right, and Jared Smith, the CFO for the town of Fairfield, on January 28th to review our budget. And the actual review of our budget was fairly quick, because if commissioners remember, We really were not asking for an increase of the budget. We submitted the same budget that we had last year. So their focus was really not so much on the overall budget, but really just one aspect. They wanted to understand the fees and professional services portion a little more and understand what those monies were being spent on. And I explained to them that most of those monies are spent on our consultant, Jeff Stedman, as well as engineering studies and outside advice from organizations like RACE and botanists and biologists and things of that nature from time to time. They actually, you might be interested in this, Jeff, but they actually took a lot of interest in what you do for the committee. And I ran them through not only what you do, but your history with working with the committee going back. I estimated it was at least 25 years, but I'm sure it's longer than that. And then most of the rest of our conversation, which lasted about 15 minutes in total, was really about what our initiatives are for 2021, for calendar year 2021. And I filled them in on our priorities, which I think Kim and others have gone through today with the agenda. Basically the mooring rules, the update of the harbor management plan, lower wharf, sandbar, et cetera, et cetera. Various questions were asked about those. And we also summarized for them the various HMC accounts that we have, like the 102 Southport Harbor account, as well as the harbor management plan, the lower wharf dredging, and some of those ships grant accounts. And I gave them a little background of where those monies came from. And then finally, they just wanted to know if we anticipated any problems or issues coming up. And I mentioned to them, for the most part, the answer was no. Although, given that we are updating the mooring rules as well as the harbor management plan, and there's a number of different stakeholders that have different interests and different priorities, that there could be some issues that arise that are hard to foresee at this point. And so they took note of that and thanked us for pointing that out. So the bottom line was that I think it was a good meeting. We had a very interested audience. I was actually surprised that we spoke for as long as we did. And, I was glad that they took as much interest as they did. The next step is that we may be called upon to go over our budget with either the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, or the RTM. Last year we were not asked to go over it with any of those groups, I think because of our small size and small increase. And I would anticipate, given again the size of our budget, $24,000 out of a municipal budget in the hundreds of millions, that I would be surprised if we're called to report to one of those groups. But if we are, either Kim or I will report and answer any questions they might have. And Kim, that's really the report.
Super, Ted. Thank you for making yourself available and for representing us so well.
Oh, you're welcome.
Commissioner,
I should have asked if there were
yeah.
any questions by any commissioners.
Go ahead, commissioners. Questions for Ted? Okay, Ted, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, new business. Jeff, you want to review for us the public information meeting that happened on January 6th? And
the Aquarian issue.
The Aquarian. I'm sorry. Yes, the Aquarian request to divert that additional water.
Right. So I think we had talked about this, a number of meetings in the past, but DEEP issued a notice of tentative determination to approve the Aquarian diversion project, which would, as we talked about 7.2 million gallons per day from the Hemlocks Reservoir system. And the bulk of that, I believe, would come from the Hemlocks Reservoir, which drains or flows, the outfall flows to the Mill River through Cricker Brook. So there was a public comment period for receiving public comments on their DEP's notice of tentative determination to approve it. So the commission provided its comments and also made the argument that the commission has standing to comment on this because it's a proposal that affects, potentially could affect Southport Harbor downstream. Although Aquarian has made the statement that it's not going to affect anything downstream, but that's something to be further discussed. And so another comment that the commission made was to recommend that there be a letter of agreement similar to the agreement between Aquarian and the town of Fairfield in 2007, when Aquarian proposed and did withdraw water from the same system and diverted it to Ridgefield. And there was a letter entered into between Aquarian and First Selectman Flato at the time that included certain understandings that the town and Aquarian would agree to for the purpose of protecting stream flow and the town of Fairfield's rights and interests in the stream flows. So we recommended in our letter, or I shouldn't say our letter, that the Harbor Commission's letter from the chair of January 22nd that such a letter of agreement be considered now. But within that public notice period, there was also a provision for interested parties to petition for a public hearing on this. And if a petition was received with, I believe, 25 signatures, then DEP has to hold a public hearing. And a petition was submitted by the Conservation Department with the support of the Conservation Commission. So a public hearing will be held on this matter. And I believe the Lake Hills Association, which has an interest in the flow into the Mill River, also petitioned for a hearing, but I'm not quite sure of that yet, but I believe that's the case. And the Mill River Wetlands Committee is interested, as you would imagine. So the first step in this public hearing process is that there will be what they call a status conference on February 25th, which is to set the date for the hearing and the ground rules and talk about what the petitioner's concerns are and questions are. So I think that we would participate in that status conference, at least to listen. And what's still not clear yet, and I believe the Conservation Commission is going to discuss this tomorrow night at their meeting, is whether the town would request to be a formal intervener in the process, which provides more, which makes the town a party. So it's not just Aquarian who wants to get the permit and DEEP, which is indicated it wants to issue the permit, but there would be another party who would have certain rights, legal rights. So that's something, I guess, that will be discussed by the Conservation Commission tomorrow night, but that would require action, support by the town and the town attorney's office, and the Lake Hills group may also request to be an intervener. So that's where things stand now. There was also an interesting letter of comments submitted, with comments submitted by the Southwest Conservation District, and I'm not quite sure how to describe that as a governmental entity, but it gets governmental funds and government funds, and they had several suggestions that I thought were should discuss. One was that DEEP shouldn't issue the permit for 25 years as Aquarian requests, but for a shorter period of time, so that you can see, judge what effect this may be having on stream flow, and then also that Aquarian should take responsibility for restoring. I forget whether it's 1 or 2 stream flow gauges in the Mill River to be better able to monitor the effects of this diversion. And also there was questions arose because apparently Aquarian is diverting water from Southwest Connecticut to sell in New York State, and there was questions about maybe they could conserve water and not have to divert as much in Connecticut if they didn't send it to New York State, but that's sort of like, not in our backyard. But anyway, so those were some of the comments, and I guess we'll know more in the next few days as to whether the town will be an intervener, and then we can also participate in the status conference. But I think Aquarian, they provided a statement of response to all of everybody's questions, during the previous review of this, and again, their response is that there will be no downstream impacts. But I think that needs to have more discussion, especially given the large volume. So that's my report on that.
This is Harry, and I can't foresee that a 7 million gallon per day is not going to have some effect. I can't imagine that they can say that with any certainty.
Yeah.
Right. It does seem incredible.
Well, also, pardon me again, because 2 years ago they proposed to withdraw, and I mentioned this, I know, repeating myself, withdraw 1 million gallons a day from the Norwalk River aquifer in Wilton. And they withdrew that proposal because there was quite a bit of number of people had opposition to it, conservation groups. But when they were arguing for that proposal, they were saying that one of the arguments they made was that this would mean that they would not have to divert as much water from the Hemlocks reservoir system, and therefore not have to be as concerned about meeting stream flow standards. So now they're withdrawing more water from the Hemlock system, but they're saying that there won't be any downstream impacts. But again, it just may be that it's hard to understand this because we're not hydraulic engineers, but it's certainly something that I think needs attention and additional discussion, and just shouldn't be rubber stamped. But that's my opinion.
So
like Harry said.
Do you anticipate that there would be a need for us to work with the Conservation Commission, depending on what they decide to do?
Yes, that's the other thing. If and also maybe discuss it with the Mill River group, and Trout Unlimited has an interest in it, I believe, and so does the Save the Sound group. So by understanding what these other groups, what their concerns are or their recommendations, we may be able to come up with a list of understandings that we could put into or we could suggest be part of a letter of agreement between Aquarian and the town. But this is all, and that was the process that was followed in 2007. I don't know what those might be, but I think that before. Maybe we should have some. We'll have more discussion with the Conservation Department before the status conference next week, and maybe we should also reach out to the Mill River Wetland Group as well.
Okay.
And Fair Plan is also interested.
Okay. So, commissioners, is there anyone who would like to listen in to the status conference on the 25th? If so, why don't you please, which is a week from Thursday. If so, please let me know, and we will make sure that you have that information on how to do that. And certainly, commissioners, please think about if you would be interested in working with any of these other groups, depending on what the Conservation Commission decides to do at their meeting tomorrow. If the town becomes an intervener, there may be an opportunity for us to participate with these other groups as well as the Conservation Commission. So please think if that's something that you would like to be interested in going forward. It sounds like it could be some pretty important work. So, any questions for Jeff? Any thoughts? Okay, Jeff, we'll keep track of that. And then finally, the decision in the Connecticut Superior Court that impacts how commissions do business and the relationship with DEEP. Betty has attached the decision there. Jeff, do you want to fill us in about where we stand on that, and then
thank you. And again, keep talking about. But this, in my opinion, is very, very one of the most significant things that we've had to grapple with over the years. And the Superior Court decision was from the end of January, and it has to do with a dispute between neighbors over a dock that was permitted by DEEP in Greenwich. And the neighbor who objected, among other things, said that the DEEP did not properly consider or give adequate weight to the recommendations of the Harbor Management Commission in Greenwich. So the judge, the case was transferred from Stamford Court to Hartford Superior Court, and the town of Greenwich intervened in the process. Use that word intervener again, not that I really understand it completely, but they were given permission by the court to intervene because the authorities and interests of the town were potentially affected by the decision. So this issue of the nature of recommendations by a Harbor Management Commission has been something that's been discussed between the towns and DEEP for a number of years. But to first get to the problem is the judge made two findings or decisions that I think are in my opinion and others are very troubling. And the first decision was that the recommendations of the Harbor Management Commission are not binding on DEEP. That for a recommendation to be binding, it has to be a recommendation that's spelled out in the plan. I'm sort of paraphrasing this, but that's I believe that's on the bottom. I highlighted this on the bottom of page 4. And the judge went on to say that harbor commissions have no veto power over DEEP, but nobody ever argued that they do have veto power. So there, without trying to be too complicated, there's a statute that's been the subject of different interpretations over the years that refers to recommendations made pursuant to this section of the statute are binding on state officials unless the state official shows cause otherwise. It was never a question of having veto power. The DEEP could always overrule a harbor commission. They just have to explain themselves and show cause. Now, recently, after a number of discussions with DEEP, and actually through the negotiations with the town of Greenwich for the Greenwich Harbor Management Plan, DEEP agreed in the harbor management plan that was approved by the state in Greenwich and in other West Haven and more recently, specifically that it's a recommendation of the Harbor Management Commission made pursuant to the plan and supported by the plan that's binding on DEEP decisions unless DEEP shows cause otherwise. So that's language that DEEP agreed to in the plan. So that the judge is saying that the recommendations are not binding unless they're written in the plan ahead of time. The second and even more puzzling decision is for the judge to say, and that I highlighted that on your copy. It's at the top of page 6. That harbor management commissions don't have any authority, even to make recommendations to DEEP on DEEP permits. Now that's the most troubling aspect of this, and the decision is being appealed. and the town of Greenwich, the selectmen voted the other day to join the appeal. But I think and you can see the significance of this, because the harbor management plan, the plan in Southport, said nothing about how the Exide lead pollution was to be remediated. But we were able to participate in the process because that proposal to remediate the lead contaminated sediments could affect the harbor. And we didn't have policies in the plan that says, again, how to remediate the lead, but we had policies to protect water quality and fisheries resources and the quality of life in the communities. And that's how we got involved in that Exide project over time. The judge's decision would lead someone to say, you don't have any authority to make any recommendations on this at all, because it's a state regulated activity. And you could make the same argument with the Aquarian proposal, that the Harbor Commission has no authority to make recommendations on this. So it's troubling, and other towns are now discussing this, as you would imagine, and several that have met last week have approved resolutions or motions to pursue and support a statutory change to the harbor management statutes that would make clear, the authority of the harbor commissions to review state applications, and also basically just confirm the long-standing practice and the provisions that DEEP itself has approved in harbor management plans. So that's that was the reason that Kim had mentioned. We contacted Representative McCarthy, because she's a member of the Connecticut Coastal Caucus, which I believe we had talked with her at sometime previously about these sorts of issues, which is a group of legislators from coastal towns to try to get their support for this change in legislation. However, the legislative session is ongoing now, so we need to find, in my opinion, suggestion, a champion to move this, to take legislation such as needed and move forward with it, or else, much of what a harbor commission does is no longer with authority, or no longer have the authority to do it. So again, thank you for letting me talk. But this is a really significant matter in my opinion and the opinion of others.
Well, thank you for keeping us informed about it, Jeff. Commissioners, any questions for Jeff?
This is Harry. It's very troubling as to the way they feel we have no impact on anything that is decided, and we should. So we should be a part of these agreements.
And Harry, the statement, I'm just reading again from the top of page 6, the judge saying there is a place for harbor management commissions to make recommendations about individual activities, but this authority only applies to recommendations about applications in front of local authorities, not state authorities. And this is an important reality. It reflects the General Assembly's choice to limit Harbor Management Commission power to local applications only, rather than expanding it to include state applications. That's contrary to the history and established authorities of established programs for harbor management for the last 30 plus years.
Right. That's
Jeff,
like saying Hartford's going to decide what gets done or not done in Southport or any other harbor.
Without taking into consideration without any requirement to take into consideration the local comments, and that's contrary to the intent of the act and to all of the plans. all the harbor management plans that have been approved throughout the state.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, you had mentioned that the Greenwich town is joining in the appeal action.
Yes.
Why would other towns with harbor management commissions up the coast not also participate in that? It would seem like a united front of town participation in the same way that Greenwich is, where they have the same exposure as Greenwich does with their harbor management commission's authority. It seems like everyone's equally affected here.
I agree, and the need is to make every town aware of this, and that's what trying to do now. We have a list of all of the towns, and I'm hoping within a day or two we can get information out to everybody. We're doing it in sort of a piecemeal way now. There's a meeting in Stamford tonight at 6:30 where this is going to be discussed, and then next week in Norwalk and Norwich. But yeah, it's the question of how best to organize to not only to join the appeal, but to achieve a statutory change that makes clear all of these things that we've been discussing for a number of years.
Right. It seems like a two-pronged strategy.
Yeah.
So you go for both. Right?
Yeah. And interestingly, we had a proposal in 2005 when Mary Von Conto was chair of the commission to do just what we're going back to talk about now. And at the time, we met with the DEP commissioner, who told us, "Oh no, you don't need to pursue a statutory change because the statute already, addresses, the binding nature of your recommendations, and don't worry about it." But that obviously we were sort of naive then. But I'm stumbling for my words, but we'll try to get this out to everybody in the next day or so. Contact all the towns.
Certainly, one of the things we could do is have a motion to support and pursue, legislation that would right this error. And we could do that this evening, and that would become, I assume, Jeff, part of the conversation that you have with other commissions and towns in the coming week or so.
Yes, and if any of the commissioners have a relationship with any of Fairfield's legislators that we could reach out to and try to explain this situation to them, that would be helpful too. We're waiting now to hear back from Ms. McCarthy, but there are others. Well, of course, there are others representatives as well that we could reach out to.
Commissioners, anyone have a relationship with a legislator that they would like to tell about this decision? Okay. I guess, Jeff, that I would propose then to the commissioners that we put together a motion to, in response to this decision, to pursue and support an amendment to the harbor management statutes in order to confirm and clarify, what that the harbor management commissions in the state, do have the power to recommend, and that those recommendations can be binding on state officials. I don't know how the other commissioners feel about that, but
and in that way, if we can get an audience with some or all of the town's legislators, we would have that motion behind us, or to supporting that meeting.
Yeah. That would be additional support.
Right.
Absolutely.
Kim, it's Sam Carter.
Yes,
Can you hear
Sam.
me? Hi,
Yep.
I had to drop the call because I couldn't unmute myself. I think that, and so if I'm repeating anything that anybody said, I apologize. I think that in terms of the delegation that we should think about is, one is Laura Devlin is our state representative, and Tony Wang is our state senator. And I think with Brenda Kupchak, they've all served together and are very close, and obviously they're all from the same party. But those are the three that I would indeed engage with Jeff, or have them, see if we can set some time aside to talk to them about it. Jeff, if you're willing to do that, I could reach out to them.
That would be wonderful, Sam. And we're preparing with some of the other towns, we have some draft legislation, which is not meant to be, forceful on anybody, but just to show what we're thinking about. And then we have an introduction to what the issue is, 2 or 3 pages. So that should be completed in a day or so. But
yeah,
if we could have a discussion with Tony Wang and Ms. Devlin, that would be great.
Yeah, and and we could include Brenda if you'd like. I mean,
well, yeah, because the town should recognize that the Harbor Commission's authority was applied in the Exide matter to success and to the benefit of the town and to the environment, and we're not proposing to have veto power over DEEP, but just to make clear that the recommendations have to be considered, and if DEEP takes a different course, they have to explain them. They have to show why, and in the first place, that the Commission has the authority to review the state actions affecting the harbor, and that just seems to be a no-brainer. I can't, but however I can help and share what the other towns are doing too, that would be great.
Sam, if you could, yeah.
It's Libby Trishler. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Libby.
If you need my body, and I would be a quiet bystander, of course, that I'm not as educated on all this as everyone else is, but my connection with Tony Wang and Brenda Kupchak, obviously through my brother John McKinney, if you thought that it would be helpful for me to sit in quietly, I'm more than happy to volunteer that time.
Oh, that would be great.
That'd be great. I mean,
that's great.
Johnny would be helpful in this whole thing too. So.
Correct. Yes.
So, for sure.
Yeah, and John certainly knows the history of the Harbor Management Act and the commissions and why the town of Fairfield decided to establish a harbor commission in the first place. That would be wonderful.
And I think, Libby, that he would be part of the cadre of people that would be part of it, and he could be very, very helpful in bringing, legacy issues to the forefront. Because I know Laura is probably not that versed in it, and Tony may very well be, but I think so. Jeff, I think the takeaway is that once you get that information, then Libby can socialize it with John, and we can go to the rest of the delegation.
I'll have that. Should have that by tomorrow afternoon, at least in a draft form. Maybe that would be suitable for starting the discussion on the issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jeff's going to get in touch with you, Sam, and then you'll get Libby and everybody and get that meet. Great, excellent,
great.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful. Do we want it? Does the rest of the commission also want to have a motion that we support this kind of legislation?
I would think we would have them. I would think we would have a motion to support letting the legislature know that we support having a say in what goes on in our harbors.
Okay. Are you proposing that motion, Harry?
Yes.
Great.
Second.
Jack is seconding. So the motion would be that we are supporting amendments to Harbor Management Commission legislation to the effect that recommendations that are made by the Harbor Management Commissions, it's the responsibility. How do we want to, Jeff, give me a hand here. How do we, recommendations should be
support
binding.
Amendments to the harbor management legislation to confirm and clarify the authorities of the Harbor Management Commission to make binding recommendations pursuant to the Harbor Management Plan and to review applications for state permits and other licenses affecting the harbor. Something like that. That we're confirming that these are. It's not something new that we're asking for. It's to confirm and clarify that this is established practice whereby the Harbor Management Commission's recommendations pursuant to the Harbor Management Plan are to be binding on DEP officials, and whereas the Commission has an important authority to review and make recommendations concerning state actions in Southport Harbor.
Right. We're not asking to get rid of the state entity's right to show cause if they disagree. Right. That's been the standard in the past too. So
yes.
Say
correct.
We still have that.
Yes. Correct. Correct.
So we're just asking
we have
the status quo
a motion
to be defended, right?
Right. We have a motion on the floor. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Wonderful. Anyone opposed? Excellent, excellent. So the motion passes. And that concludes the new business items that I have on the agenda. Anything else that anyone wants to bring to the attention of the Commission? Okay, then I would entertain a motion to dismiss, to adjourn until March 16.
I'll move that, Jack.
Jack, thank you. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Harry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great meeting, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
Night.
Yes.
And March 16 is our next get together. Take care.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night. You too.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night, all.